in.
It's time for Denis Villeneuve.
Denis Villeneuve.
Yes. So he is French Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just making sure he's not fully French. Not that
No,
there's a problem with that.
He's pretty much just Canadian.
Right. All but name. Yeah. So to be clear, he has a number of movies and shorts in his Canadian career, which some of them are very difficult to find to watch. But I definitely am meaning to watch Maelstrom and Polytechnic for sure, but mostly Incendies. Have I seen this? This looks familiar. No.
Incendies.
No, I have not. You saw Incendies though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. He has a short also called Next Floor, which came out in 2008. But if you are very interested in this guy, which I mean, I guess we can just talk. He did Prisoners, Enemy, Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner, and Dune. So
Blade Runner 2049.
Blade Runner 2049. So with each movie, the budget has gotten like slightly larger, except for Enemy. I'd imagine. I don't know what the budget of Prisoners was, but Dune, I'm sure the budget was out of control.
Yeah, he's pretty consistently just made bigger and bigger movies. Prisoners is 46 million, so Enemy was really the only, quote
Outlier.
unquote step backward, but it felt like it was just like he wanted to make another small movie.
Yeah.
And that kind of finishes out his Canadian career.
I just figured I would introduce to people because they may not like connect him with the movies he's done, despite people probably hearing of the movies he's made. But anyway, I would definitely encourage checking out his older stuff because I fully intend on doing that. Just haven't. I heard good things about Polytechnic, heard great things about Incendies. I know people love those two.
Yeah, he's not quite a celebrity director yet. He's definitely getting, I mean, with Dune, I would argue he is now. Like he is very likely a household name. I mean, Arrival got him a ton of international buzz, being nominated for Oscars and things, but yeah, I mean, Blade Runner and Dune have definitely catapulted him into the highest echelon that a director can get to. But yeah, we'll kind of breeze through his Canadian stuff because neither of us have seen his first two films, which are much smaller budgeted, and to my knowledge, never received large international releases.
And difficult to find to watch.
Yeah, they're both very small budgets, like less than 10 million. Incendies is the same way, small budget, like $7 million. Same with Polytechnic. Polytechnic is a very intense movie about a school shooting in Canada at a school called Polytechnic. It was known as like the Montreal Massacre. It's somewhere in between the films Elephant by Gus Van Sant and what is it? Kevin. Call Me Kevin. Oh, what the hell's that name? It's a film with John C. Reilly and Ezra Miller. I think it's called Call.
I don't know.
No. We need to talk about Kevin. Sorry. Lynn Ramsey film.
Okay. I've heard of that. Yeah.
Great Scottish director. I prefer both We Need to Talk About Kevin and Elephant to Polytechnic, which is a good movie. obviously more nationally localized in its subject matter, but in terms of what you can mine from a school shooting movie, um, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the reenactments of those. Whereas we need to talk about Kevin, at least uh, it doesn't try to exploit the subject matter for drama, whereas Polytechnic kind of does.
I see.
Um, Still very well made. And then Incendies, I would argue, is kind of the end of his Canadian career before he really jumped into Hollywood. And that is a really serious Canadian drama. It's based on a play of the same name by like a Lebanese Canadian guy, and it's a lot about um, a lot of conflict in the Middle East and uh, family, some bureaucratic nightmares of trying to get family out of the Middle East, and the difficulties of being an Arab in Canada,
Mm.
specifically in like French Canada. Um,
Now I'm way more interested in watching it.
yeah, it's a very extreme movie. There's some really messed up stuff in it, which will
Shit.
come of no surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. I don't want to say more because I
Yeah.
don't want to spoil it for you. Um, or anyone else. But yeah, there's some dark stuff in it, but it hits all the right notes. Emotionally, it works really well. It's a really solid drama. Um, it was nominated for best foreign language film, which is how I think Villeneuve was able to uh, pierce into Hollywood and get the first film that we'll really begin to talk about here, Prisoners, made. Uh, This was the first movie of his I saw. So I heard about this coming out in theaters, 2013 movie. Um, Went and saw it and was blown away. I thought it was a phenomenal movie. Career high performance from Hugh Jackman. Excellent performance by Jake Gyllenhaal. Really good supporting cast of Paul Dano, Viola Davis, Terrence Howard, Melissa Leo, and what's his name? David Das Malachian. An incredible character actor.
Oh yes.
The dude from like The Dark Knight and
Yes.
Polka
Yeah.
Dot Man and The Suicide Squad, and
No, he's awesome in this.
most recently in Oppenheimer. Great actor, and yeah, he's excellent in this movie. But this is one of the best modern mystery movies. Incredible thriller. Um,
Very tense.
yes.
Extremely tense. This is, I would say, a brother of Zodiac, but like this is even more tense at times than Zodiac,
Yeah.
which surprises me because this movie came out like 5 to 6 years after Zodiac. They
Hmm.
just like look and feel like they came out the same year.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Um,
mean, so much of the impressiveness of this film comes from, I mean, beyond the actual actors and Villeneuve's direction, but most importantly, Roger Deakins' cinematography.
oh yeah.
So legendary cinematographer Roger Deakins, and the score by Johan Johansson's. That's
Yes.
his real name is Johan Johansson.
You said Johansson Simpsons.
Well,
That's what you said.
that's true. He also scored Sicario and Arrival.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I think this is the second or third movie I saw by him. Um, like I think I saw Sicario and Arrival before Prisoners,
Gotcha.
actually.
Yeah, I was just lucky that I like was going to the movies all the time when that came out. Unfortunately, Johan Johansson is dead.
Shit.
Uh, yeah, he was not that old. I don't know what happened to him. Uh,
If you were like if it's this feels like a really good Friday night like thriller movie, I would say. Like go order a pizza, sit down and watch this.
I would not. Oh, damn! Johansson died because of a lethal combination of cocaine and flu medicine.
Oh, dude.
God damn it, Johan.
Damn.
But yeah, I agree with you that this is a very good late night movie. Um, it is entertaining, but to call it entertainment is doing it a disservice because it is very serious.
It's
Uh,
entertaining to a specific type of person, which is me. Like the thriller aspect and the mystery aspect. Like being
yeah.
able to combine both of those. Um the Batman that came out most recently has
Hmm.
bit a bit of the elements of this movie to it. Like with the mystery aspect to it, but obviously not as solid mysteriously.
Yeah, it's kind of like a cross. I mean, it has elements of like season one True Detective,
Yeah.
just with like the attempt to unravel a conspiracy that ends up being much simpler than it first appears.
Yes.
Um, but most largely, it's about the darkness underneath things that appear to be simple on the surface.
Hmm.
And it's pretty much all because of um, Gyllenhaal's character, Detective Loki, that everything is uncovered, despite the fact that Hugh Jackman's character, the main characters are Jackman and Gyllenhaal's characters.
An
Jackman,
an unrelenting father whose
yeah,
daughter was taken and is missing. And he is driven to do whatever it takes to get her back.
yeah, it's a good Thanksgiving movie. So it's about two families who get together for Thanksgiving. Both of them have young daughters who disappear.
Yeah.
And Hugh Jackman is, like you said, he's like a prepper. So he's like
Yeah.
prepped for the apocalypse, and he's shown that he will do anything to get his daughter back. And he ends up solving the mystery before Gyllenhaal does, uh, much to his own.
Yeah.
Uh,
You got to see this, especially for the end, because it is fucking haunting.
yeah, great, great movie. Roger Deakins' cinematography in this is excellent. I mean, you can tell it's based off of Villeneuve's direction. Like the two of them just work together perfectly.
Yes.
Um, and I believe Deakins would then go on to work with him again repeatedly.
Well,
Not on
yeah.
Arrival, but on
Blade
Blade
Runner.
Runner and Sicario.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, not Arrival or Dune. Um,
Deakins is an absolute beast. Just an absolute beast. But
yeah,
I don't want to go on too much of a tangent with
I
him.
do want to say that Deakins. I've listened to tons of his interviews because he's a guy who gets really into the technical details of how he shoots stuff. And he did this one interview about Prisoners where he basically just talked about Rembrandt paintings for half an hour and how
Jesus.
that was his like main uh like that was what he
Like
was choose like how
inspiration.
he was like yeah,
That
exactly.
was his like swatch. Like not so much color wise, but like um what's that called? Like it's like a board that you have for like inspiration, like your inspiration board.
Dream board.
No, no. It's like an architectural thing that Anna talks about all the time, where you
Uh
just have like images of different like houses or something, and you try to incorporate the elements from those houses into whatever you're trying to do. Like it's not inspiration board, but it's basically the same thing. Yeah. Uh, I I could talk about this movie for a long time, so let's go on to Enemy, also starring Jake Gyllenhaal. He is at the center of this movie as he plays two different characters.
mhm.
Um,
One of the first big distribution releases by A24.
oh yeah, that's right. The coloration of this movie is awesome. That like
Yeah, very
yellowish look.
sickening. It's like a very anemic color. What's the what's the word for when your skin gets yellow because of liver
Sallow.
failure? No, there's a specific word I'm thinking of. It's yellowing of the skin due to liver failure. Anyway, that's what this movie looks like. It's a very gross color. But yeah, it's about Jake.
Jaundice?
Yes, jaundice. It has a jaundiced color to it. It's more orange, though, than yellow.
Yeah. When there's lighting, though, it does look more like yellowish green. Well, during the daytime, I should say, not at night. And Melanie Laurent from, is she from The Bastards, Inglourious Bastards?
Yes. Yes, she is.
Yeah, this is a psychological movie. It reminds me in some ways of Primer. Just from like the odd like puzzle pieces and you trying to figure things out with that character, and they're like doubles, if you will. Yeah, the basic premise of the movie is that, like, is he a professor? He's a teacher at like a community college, maybe.
Yeah. He's a
He
history professor.
Yeah, he sees a guy that is him, like to a T, is just him, but he's an actor in movies.
Yeah, he's like in the background of a movie he watches.
So then he becomes like obsessed with that and tries to like find him, basically. Yeah, a whole ton of abstraction going on, and you
Lots
really
of stuff with giant tarantulas.
Oh fuck. Yeah. like literally the thing of nightmares.
Yeah.
And it'll get you. Like, the movie will get you. This is not like an entertaining movie. Like, this is not a movie to be entertained by.
No, it's a bit of a challenging a challenging thriller.
And I say that but from a perspective of fully loving it. Like, the whole time I was on board. There's some slow aspects to it towards the beginning, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, it's very psychological. It's very artsy. And due to that, I think the ending very specifically defies an immediate answer for what the film is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
Which makes it very different from his other Hollywood films.
Yeah, I mean, it very clearly seems like it's saying your only enemy is yourself, but then also you have an enemy in other people's in other people insofar as you allow them to be an enemy to yourself. Is what it feels like to me. And like, whether or not you imagine enemies out there trying to get you or like destroy the world. Yeah.
Or more importantly, the real enemy is yourself.
Right. Moving
there's
on.
Also there's stuff in the background about him being a history professor where he talks about like totalitarian regimes and like the inevitability of humans to create like dictatorships of complete control, the same way that the one guy tries to basically control his double, sort of mirroring the control he lacks over himself. Like, you just can't control your subconscious.
Yeah, and also that a lot of people who struggle with their like controlling their own life will then try to control other people's lives to the degree of like a fascist dictatorial regime. Then there's Sicario, which came out in 2015. So Enemy was 2013, which, to be clear, I also get Enemy confused with, oh god, there's another movie that came out. Maybe it's It has Jake Gyllenhaal in it, and I think it has doubles in it, and Amy Adams is in it. Nocturnal
Nocturnal
Animals,
Animals. Yeah,
which I haven't seen.
it's
Um,
okay. The
yeah.
the script is like half baked.
But anyway, Sicario came out in 2015. Um, and
Sicario Day of the Soldado.
this movie absolutely slaps. Like on so many different levels. Um, Good God. The acting in it is awesome. The direction, the action in it also is amazing. Like if you're on board for just um not an infiltration, but like spec ops missions. Like if you like that sort of thing in a movie, then this movie does that and then does like other things as opposed to just being like a Mission Impossible movie, right? Um yeah, it's so satisfying. And also not satisfying as well. Like it peels that back and is like, no, you don't get to have your cake and eat it too. In fact, you can really only just look at the cake and then someone's going to slap you in the face.
Yeah, it is.
Emily Blunt, phenomenal as always.
I mean, despite being as extreme as it is, it still ends up being a fairly subtle movie.
Yes,
Um,
for sure. Especially given the latter quarter.
yeah, but I think it ultimately this is one of those movies where like um for as much as it's like unsubtle, like the themes of the movie about the border war and sort of the black ops, spec ops, like illegal extra legal processes by which the CIA tries to eh, in I wouldn't say infiltrate cartels, but basically work with and against cartels to make the drug war endless. Um, it still manages to have a lot of sort of deeper meaning to it that I think really respects the audience's time by giving them a movie that is completely entertaining and action packed while also managing to be something that um, says something about the American dream and the failure of the American dream or the American government.
Oh yeah, it's commentary on like the military industrial complex and what America is willing to do to protect its border, but also to just like maintain its sovereignty and power over other countries. Um, you don't really see that in a lot of movies that like also just have this level of action to it, as opposed to just being like a strictly like war movie or just being like one thing. Um, and I would credit that a lot to the the choice of the main character, like because it's told through uh her lens. It does a lot more than just being like an anti-war or an anti um war machine movie or an anti-American film.
Yeah, it's more objective in its view. Like you get the subjective feeling of Emily Blunt's character as she is like slowly drawn into this conspiracy. Uh, but ultimately, like it doesn't necessarily paint Del Toro and Brolin as the villains, even though their actions are obviously extreme and very
Correct.
violent. Um,
Well, they are trying to work within the crazy convoluted web that they've been placed in and have also influenced, making the web that much tighter around them and the people that the web is connecting. So
yeah.
they are trying to make sense of it, and I don't want to say they're trying to make the world a better place, but they're clearly acting on their own moral code, which is one of the reasons why the movie is so fascinating, is because Emily Blunt clearly has like a moral code of like, well, we can't do that. That's just wrong. We're not going to do that. And then the other characters are like, we're gonna fucking do that. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
you understand how America works, or I don't think you understand how the Sicarios work. Like, this is what's gonna happen. I mean, the movie's opening is like, yeah, we're not fucking around here. Like, I don't know whatever you thought you were gonna watch, or I don't know what you thought America's relationship was with other countries or the drug cartel, but this is what the drug cartel is all about. And then also showing like the images of um what's the of Juarez? Is it Juarez that they're in, or is it somewhere else that they are?
Yeah, they go to Juarez to extradite one of the cartel guy's brothers.
Yeah, and people are just hanged off a bridge. And you're like,
Welcome to
oh,
Juarez.
yeah.
It's literally what they say when you see them. Yeah.
That border crossing scene also, holy shit. I hope you realize they straight up ripped that and put it into Call of Duty. Like
I would assume.
there's an entire map that is based on that and mission. But
Yeah, while this movie remains objective, my biggest problem with the Call of Duty franchise is the fact that it lands more like like the fundamental writing philosophy of those games is more along the lines of Brolin's character, where it's
yes,
more like Jack Nicholson from A Few Good Men. Like, we need men on those walls. Like, they're bad people and we gotta kill them.
that is exactly what it is. America first. We're gonna fund these we're gonna fund this terrorist organization. That's not actually terrorist organization. They're doing some things, but like they got to do those things because we got to stabilize this government. Because if we don't stabilize this government, they're gonna go into a panic, and then those two drug cartels are gonna take over, and then more people are gonna die. Yeah, which this
Well,
movie
like,
is directly commenting on.
yeah, but Brolin makes the point of like, well, so the plot ends up being that basically Brolin and Del Toro are on some mission to go kill a cartel lord so that the main cartel that the CIA is working with consolidates its power. With Brolin's sort of excuse for doing so is that it's better to work with the one cartel because they can't get rid of the illegal drug trade, not because like the crime is inherent to Mexico, but because Americans are just love drugs.
Yeah,
And so like he ends up being a product of his system despite the fact that he's in complete control of what he does at all times.
yeah,
And ultimately the tragedy of the story is that Emily Blunt is like allowed to peek into this world as a very effective like FBI special agent. And then at the end you just get that great scene between her and Del Toro where he's like, you don't belong here. Like, this is only for wolves.
yeah.
Like, you're not a wolf. You got to be a wolf to be here.
And he spares her while completely having the option of just like removing her.
Yeah. And then, I mean, more haunting, where the film finally goes into something less objective, or I mean, it's still objectively showed, but sort of leading the audience of what to think with the kid of the dead corrupt police officer who's just playing soccer, even though his dad is now dead, and
Yeah.
he's just trying to play a soccer game, and then you just hear gunfire in the background, and they stop, and then they keep playing.
Yep.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
a yeah, but everybody turns in a great performance. Del Toro, as usual, plays a very great brooding character with a horrific backstory. Emily Blunt is probably the best part of it. Josh Brolin is great as the like
Oh yeah.
wisecracking, super violent CIA dude. Daniel
America.
Kaluuya is excellent. John Bernthal in his small role.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
even Jeffrey Donovan shows up to put in a silly performance. What a weird actor that Jeffrey Donovan. But yeah, Roger Deakins again, cinematographer, excellently shot. Johan Johansson with the score. Um, the same way that Hans Zimmer's scores for Christopher Nolan started to influence all the big budget blockbusters, Johan Johansson had the same effect, I would argue, with this film,
For sure.
where the like sort of drone sounds
Yep.
would become the big thing that everyone would copy.
For sure. Yeah, I'm
Including
picturing
Mr. Zimmer himself.
I was gonna say, just from like Tenet with that fire truck scene, like, and the border crossing scene of just like the tension is ramping up. People are like pulling back the action levers on their gun, like they're loading up, they're putting plates into their armored vests. Yeah.
I should also note, written by Taylor Sheridan.
Oh yes, thank you for mentioning that. I meant to comment on that.
Yeah, a great storyteller and semi-accomplished actor himself. He was in like Sons of Anarchy. He wrote Hell or High Water. Also, he's in the movie. Directed and wrote Wind River. Excellent movie.
That might be one of the connections with Bernthal, actually, now that I think about it, because he's in this too, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he's also written quite a few other TV shows. All of them are newer.
Yeah.
So Yellowstone like really made him big because he like directed episodes, wrote the whole thing, produced it, created it, runs the show. So that's like his show. The Last Cowboy, Mayor of Kingstown, 1883, which is some stupid Yellowstone spinoff. Same with 1923, I think.
I don't know if all of those are connected.
Whatever. I don't know if I'll ever watch Yellowstone just because I have some issues with
No, we can't go to that.
Yeah, okay, let's not get into
that will take too long.
uh
Kevin Costner's Kevin Costs a lotners.
He's gonna be in the Hack Frauds. Don't worry. He's on the
Arrival
list.
came out in 2016, starring Jeremy Renner and Amy Adams. Unfortunately, Jeremy Renner had an accident pretty recently. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah, he got rolled over by his own snowmobile or something.
Yeah.
He's fine.
He is not fine.
Oh.
He's not okay.
Oh, I thought he was fine.
No, he's having like hyperbaric, like he's being he I don't know if he can feed himself.
Oh.
He's having like hyperbaric. I would just look this up like 5 minutes ago while we were talking, but he's having like hyperbaric therapy treatments for like with oxygen twice a day.
Uh-oh.
I don't think he's gonna be okay.
Well, I mean, his career was already sort of over, but
yeah, I mean, I hope he'll be fine. I don't have anything against him, but anyway, this
Forrest
movie,
Whitaker, Michael Stuhlbarg, Simba.
Came out in 2016. I feel like this movie kind of flew under the radar, to be honest with you.
Really?
I have talked with many a person who, quote, likes movies and who has never seen this, but
this movie was a huge hit, massive critical and commercial success.
I'm talking to the wrong people then. Yeah, I love this movie. Yeah, it's also, I think it's like perfectly edited. I really like the aspect of a linguist, like being the person that we turn to when aliens arrive, because we have to figure out how to communicate with them as opposed to just like blowing them up or attacking them. And clearly they're trying to communicate in some capacity. It's a very inspiring story, as well as being somewhat Christopher Nolan-esque, actually, now that I think about it. Just as far as like the plot. I don't want to ruin the movie for people who haven't seen it, but you know what I'm talking about. Like 3/4 of the way through and the end.
Oh, this one we're gonna have to spoil, unfortunately. Yeah, if you haven't seen Arrival, I don't know what you're doing, but this is must-watch material. I mean, I think Sicario is a masterpiece. I mean, it's gotten some credit for being great, and Prisoners is just shy of, incredible. But this movie is definitely Villeneuve's best so far.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this is his best. It's not my favorite though. Um, it used to be my favorite, but I think like I probably like can't rewatch it that often just because it's not as fun as like Sicario personally. Like I would probably watch Sicario a lot more often than any of the other ones. Prisoners would probably like take me to too dark of a place if I watched that like every year. Um,
Watch it on Thanksgiving as a reminder of how important family is.
I'd rather watch The Dark Knight. Uh, but yeah, this movie, the writing is awesome. The This is where I think Villeneuve gets emotion also like perfect. Like the emotional beats of this movie like really crescendo perfectly. Um, I don't really have too much more to say about it than that. It hits really strongly.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to talk about why the movie is so effective without spoiling it. Like basically aliens land on Earth. Amy Adams is a linguist who's sent to meet them. The movie actually starts with Amy Adams' kid dying.
Yes.
Um but basically she has to communicate with these big weird squid alien fellas. And it's really hard to understand what they're trying to say. Uh she starts to have like weird visions of the past and the future and basically learns that their form of language they can see the future and they are there because they need humanity's help because in the future they will save humanity but humanity needs to like help the alien.
It's
It's
a
kind of like
paradox.
the Interstellar bit where they're like, we found this stupid fucking wormhole out by Jupiter that we made or whatever. We made the Tesseract, but we needed to get into it for it to be made. This one makes more sense though. If you're
Yes.
trying to find the plot holes, this one doesn't really have it.
Yeah, and it's also really cool because the language that they use is visual and it's also like visually palindromic,
Hmm.
if you will. So like a palindrome, right? It reads the same way forwards as it does backwards. Which obviously if you compare that with time, um, time being in a circle, or like a line that bends back on itself, that's how their like language works. Um, and then the significance of Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner's daughter. Her name is Hannah, which is obviously a palindrome, but that has um, it like provides clarity for Amy Adams in the end.
Right, because once she understands the language, she sees time non-linearly. So she
Yes.
can see into the future the
Yeah.
same way that she can see into the past. Um, and so that's like the first twist is that her daughter has not been born yet. So
Yeah.
even though the movie begins with her daughter dying, that's like I mean, that's the whole crux that the movie is built around. Like that's the emotion the movie is built around is the fact that Adams knows her daughter will die and chooses to have her anyway.
Exactly.
Um, because the death of the daughter is less important to her than the precious years that she'll have with her.
And that's the whole point of the movie is why do anything if you know that it's not going to last? And it's like, well, because of those precious moments that you get with the people around you or the precious moments that you have to do something important or that make you feel good or that you do something that's actually of significance or that just brings you joy.
Yeah.
um so
And so that's where the plot of the movie comes in is that the aliens are here to help us because we have to help them in the future, but they're helping us to learn each other and stop war between humans. And so they need the Chinese are like gonna attack the aliens, and so the aliens finally teach Amy at, because of course,
Yeah, yeah.
and so
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at that, but it's just like it's very realistic. It's very plausible.
yeah. So then, I mean, it would be the Russians, not the Chinese, but the aliens give her like this general in China's like wife's dying words that
Yes.
she then uses to call him and says it, and then the guy's like, "Oh fuck," and then he calls it off, and then everybody in the world works together.
In war, there are no winners, only widows. That's the
Yeah,
quote,
yeah,
which is amazing. Like when I say the writing is awesome in this, I mean from the story, from the characters, but also like what they say, like
hmm
the dialogue and also the language of the aliens. Yeah. Also the like the abstract nature and the like mystery around the aliens. Like their like craft is not easily definable, right? It's just this weird sort of like
obelisk
orbed
thing. Yeah,
obelisk thing that floats in the sky, and they just kind of like appear one day and they're like around very important places in the world.
yeah.
um
Questions of determinism.
yeah, but this movie definitely feels kind of uh like an older brother to Enemy. um just with like, you know, the really abstract kind of like tarantula fucking thing. um and then like there's a lot more emotional connection that I think the audience feels from this movie as opposed to Enemy, obviously. Which is a little bit more like jagged and disjointed in its own way, which doesn't make it worse, but um is ultimately just because of how good this movie is. Like it's very complete, and like it's really weird too, because if you just like look, like if you heard the description of the movie and you look at the poster for the film, you're like, oh, this is just gonna be like a crazy sci-fi action movie.
Yeah, there's
Like
very little action.
like that's what it looks like. There are choppers approaching this weird orb in the sky. You have Amy Adams looking off into the distance. Forrest Whitaker in fatigues. Jeremy Renner looking confused.
Well, to be fair, it is a really hard movie to market. They actually did a very good job of marketing the movie effectively.
Yeah. No, I more so mean like people nowadays looking at it and being like, huh, I wonder if I should watch this. Which just also brings up the fact that there's just a bunch of trash out there. Sci-fi, military, action trash. But
Yeah, this is like a better version of Contact,
Contact.
Jodie Foster film. Guess who directed Contact?
Oh yeah, is this I'm okay. Let's
Don't
move
look
on.
don't look it up.
Let's move
You looked
on.
it up.
Let's
You
move
ruined
on.
it. We could have brought it all back around to Robert Zemeckis, but you had to go and spoil it.
Zemeckis is a palindrome. Okay, moving on. Moving on to Dune 2049.
All right, yeah, Dune 2049.
Oh boy. Yeah. Sorry about that. Blade Runner 2049 came out in
Okay,
2017.
Blade Runner 2.
I had the I had the fortunate opportunity to watch this in Taiwan, which was pretty cool just because of like I don't know if anyone else has been to Taiwan or East Asia, but there's like just a ton of like neon lights
Uh,
like on the streets and like in the cities. And Blade Runner itself, like the original movie, like has a lot of that sort of atmosphere of just like you take that atmosphere and then multiply it by like 100 and just make the buildings that much taller, and you have like a bunch of like projections, right? And um there's also like a lot of different, like I don't even know if Blade Runner uses a specific language or if it uses its own language on like signs. Like I don't think it's Japanese, I don't think it's Chinese, and I don't think it's Korean. I think it's its own characters, but maybe not. But anyway,
That's very possible that it might just be something pulled straight from Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
yeah.
I've never read that, so I don't know if there's something in that about the language they use.
But anyway, I got to see this in Taiwan and it was awesome. The only drawback was that the theater sound was not the best. But oh well. Yeah, this movie's color use is amazing. Uh yeah, nearly unparalleled, I would say. As far as like movies in the last 10 years.
In terms of the use of color,
Yeah. Like the coloration of scenes and lights and lighting. Uh-oh.
what's going on?
I thought you disagreed.
No, no, I
Were you just waiting for me to keep talking?
yeah, I thought you were gonna say something else.
I thought you were disagreeing. That's why I was waiting for you to talk. No, I think the color use in this movie is incredible. Like it's extremely masterful. I've only seen it once, uh, but I definitely need to watch it again on the projector because I'm sure it would look awesome.
it is a visual masterpiece with a poopy shit story. I
Yeah,
don't like this story at all. I think this script is not fully baked. It's pulled out of the oven a little before. It looks really nice. Like it looks it's a perfectly looking cooked dish, but
I
the
would agree with
interior is
that.
soft and mushy. Um, I think everything about this movie works except for that. I think it is weirdly written. I don't
Wow. You mean you don't like Hampton Fancher?
don't know who Hampton Fancher or Michael Green are.
Yeah.
I assume they were involved in writing the original. Oh, Michael Green, writer of incredible classics like Alien Covenant and Murder on the Orient Express.
And Green Lantern.
Yeah, that not a good scream. But yeah,
and Logan. But yeah.
that was a direct adaptation of a
It seems
graphic
like
novel.
that. It seems like Michael Green may have gotten in the way of Hampton Fancher. Not that Blade Runner itself is a perfect script, but it's way better than 2049.
Yeah. So that's always been something that was tough for me was whether or not this movie was better than Blade Runner.
Yeah, yeah. That's a tough call because
Because
Blade Runner is good, but also overrated. Um, I would say from a lot of people's perspectives. I know some people like that's their favorite movie ever, and it's a good movie. It's definitely good. It's a cult movie, but yeah.
I didn't. I mean, Blade Runner is a movie that is largely devoid of any emotional stakes until the very end, when it all Rutger Hauer just slams you with a hammer
Oh yeah.
all at once. This movie never feels like it gets to that. And it's not because Gosling doesn't have a great performance. Like his performance, like sort of robotic drive-esque performance. Still manages, I think, to get me pretty into the movie. And there's some really good supporting performances. Like Anna de Armas is really good as the robot hologram.
Yeah.
Robin Wright is good in her small role as the like lieutenant or whatever, the police chief. You son of a bitch. He's a wild card, but he gets results. Dave Bautista's good in that opening scene. Harrison Ford is passable. And Jared Leto is almost not annoying. Edward James almost is good in his like one scene or two scenes he's in. Um, but yeah, as for the actual plot, like the fact, basically it centers around the fact that the robot from the first movie fucked Harrison Ford and they had a kid. And that's a huge conspiracy that's real bad because it undermines all of society that robots can have kids. And it's frustrating because the whole point of the first movie was answering the question the novel posed. The answer was yes. Once you make a robot that is so intelligent, it becomes life.
Mm-hmm.
So, what more did this story need to tell us about the nature of existence with regards to like holographic AI or robotic AI? Um, I mean,
But
similar to Arrival, there's themes of determinism where like
yeah,
the K robot is like forced down this path. Like he was forced to do this. This was a job he was meant to always do, was going to be to uncover this grand conspiracy.
isn't there that place that they go that's like a factory or like a scientific like area or something? I forget what it is. Like I'm failing with the words for it,
Yeah, it's
but
like a trash place.
it
It's a bunch
reminds
of
me
garbage.
it reminds me of like a specific scene or set of scenes from like Minority Report where they have to go to that one area and there's like one person that has I don't think they have visions, but they
Yes, they go to a big trash like manufactory plant and there's a bunch of little kid AI robots, and the leader of the robots is like, "You were a kid here once too, and your memories were tricked because we needed you to help our uprising against the evil corporation."
Mhm. Yeah. Um yeah. Um I don't think it's as good as Blade Runner, but I don't think Blade Runner is as good as everyone thinks it is.
I don't like the end of this movie.
Yeah.
2049. I
Yeah.
like the very end scene where like the guy's lying in the snow,
For
Ryan
sure, for
Gosling's
sure.
robot's seeing the snow, and Harrison Ford goes to see his robot daughter. I like that, and I like the scene before that actually, but it's not a satisfying conclusion to the narrative at all, which
No,
gets like super convoluted and nonsensical. Whereas Blade Runner has a very straightforward narrative that starts slow and builds, and then you get that confrontation between Ford and Rutger Hauer with the I've seen ships blowed up in the space and tears in the rain. Like there isn't anything like that in this movie. Like the end of this movie wants to evoke some kind of emotion like that, but they don't show Ford meeting the daughter.
yeah, which is very
Instead, it
odd.
focuses on the robot, which is as if to give the nod back to Blade Runner, but just Ryan Gosling staring emotionless at the sky while snow falls is not as powerful as seeing Harrison Ford almost cry as he embraces his kid.
For sure.
Uh, so yeah, it's a
It was a
frustrating
weird
movie to
choice.
me.
Definitely a
Yeah,
weird choice.
but it
Um,
doesn't. I don't think it says anything about Villeneuve's ability to direct because this is a huge project that he completely succeeded on.
yeah,
He made a very functionally awesome sequel to a beloved sci-fi classic um, that just gets bogged down in its own stupidness with the fucking Michael Green.
yeah,
This
but
movie was considered a commercial failure, um,
yeah, yeah.
probably because the marketing costs were just in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Uh,
Then bring on 2021's Dune.
oh, yep, Dune.
Awesome score. Um,
Hans Zimmer. Yeah, I am Hans Zimmer.
Visually, like more clear than um Blade Runner. Like it, it doesn't get caught up in the lights, obviously, because um obviously there's not as many lights in the desert, but it does use like the coloration um to great effect, I would say. um I think this movie is good. I don't know if I would say it's great.
Yeah, I mean, much of the way that I think we'll look back on this movie will depend heavily on how the sequel turns out.
Right, right.
Because this is only half of a story.
Yep. Yep.
The end of this movie is not a conclusion to a story in any way,
No.
which means that its success will depend on the success of the sequel. Um, I think everything that it wanted to do, it did well.
Hmm.
The action scenes are really refreshing. Like there's lots of big budget, explosive science fiction action that is
Yeah.
so much better than all of the other humdrum crap that we get
Yeah.
that it felt like they didn't just recycle the same CGI models that I've seen 1,000 times in every Marvel movie, in
See
every
Star
DC
Wars.
movie, in every goddamn Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all recycled. This feels fresh and new in that regard. As for the rest of the movie, I don't know what to think because I need to see the evolution of the characters to know what will happen.
Yeah. For sure.
So like um people like the Jason Momoa's character and Josh Brolin, like they're all serviceable. Oscar Isaac does what he's supposed to do well, but
Yep.
like Rebecca Ferguson, Chalamet, Zendaya, Stellan Skarsgård's, Dave Bautista, all of them have bigger roles to play in the second half of the
Yeah.
story,
And
and that's
Javier
where things could.
Bardem obviously like just kind of comes in at the end and is like, "Here I
Right.
come."
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's unclear to me, like, if they'll drop the ball or if Villeneuve will just hit a home run. Because the second half of this story has all of the crazier action bits. It has all of the complications with the Fremen. It has all the stuff with yeah, what's his name?
The
Paul becoming omniscient, basically.
Yeah, and the diplomatic like intergalactic relations that they have to do. They
Exactly.
have to
Because
figure out.
yeah, Dune is a complicated novel, and it felt like they got the world right. Like the Fremen felt correct. Um Sort of the background world building with like the art treaties, family lineage, like the ships were all cool. Um, Everything felt like it was in its right place, but I don't know. I'm hesitant to like give it a total pass because the sequel is very important.
Yeah. Yeah. Um
I think they did explain enough of the stuff though. Like they explain spice, they explain the worms, they explained like the spacing guilds and some of the hierarchy of the empire. Um, we learn about just enough about the Bene Gesserit and how they're super sketchy with their weird genetic
I think I
manipulations.
think the movie does a great job of condensing down information as well as opposed to just like overwhelming you with expository gobbledygook and you just being like, what the fuck are the Fremen again? Like why did we just like see how the Fremen poop and how they share that with each other and that's their main source of nutrients? Not that they are, I'm just making something up, but like that they totally could have gotten like way caught up in the canon of Dune. um but yeah, like the the score and just the like crescendo of voices, um and yeah, it really brings you in and a must see experience in theaters for sure. So yeah, I mean that's a good note to end on for the second one coming out in the next year or two.
This no, just this year.
Shit, when?
It's coming out in like months. It's like the beginning of November.
Amazing, can't wait.
Yeah, so we've now covered quite a few filmmakers who are still making stuff. So we'll probably have I mean, it's an addendum to
Easy content to crank
yeah,
out.
yeah. Fincher's got a new movie. And Villeneuve's got a new movie. Hopefully, we can find a way to watch like some of these older Villeneuve films. Some Denis films.
Villeneuve. Yeah.
Have you ever seen the '84 Dune, the David Lynch
No.
Dune?
No, but I did see that the woman who plays Rachel in that movie we just talked about, Blade Runner, is the woman in Dune. Yes.
Rachel.
Rachel?
Oh, in the Lynch Dune. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. She's not in the new Dune. Why? Why do you ask? If I've seen the other Dune.
Oh, just to compare it to this one, because they're extremely different.
No, I haven't seen it only because I like David Lynch and I don't really want to mar that image.
It's not his fault.
That's one of the reasons why I won't watch it.
It's one of those great examples of a director having a vision and the studio just coming right in over the top and shitting all over it. Like basically they took like you know how this Dune Part 1 has just the right amount of exposition, as
Yep.
in very little, but
Yeah,
you still get what's happening.
it's mostly like most of the exposition is visually shown, which
Yeah,
is
it's not techno babble.
which is the most which is like one of the strongest points of this movie and something that I think a lot of aspiring filmmakers should aim to do in their films.
Also, just the sense of scale.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, Lynch shot a 4-hour version of Dune, and the studio was like, "Yeah, it can't be more than 2.5 hours." So they chopped it up,
Oh
and then
God.
they like were watching and were like, "This movie doesn't make any sense. What's this even about?" So then instead of trying to re-edit it again and find a compromise, they just put a bunch of really bad voiceover in over the whole movie to explain everything. So it's just this chopped up version of Dune that makes no sense with like bad techno babble and world building just thrown in on top of it.
That would be. Can you imagine Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings, like with just crazy voiceovers and lore babble?
There's already a lot of voiceover like that. Like a lot of meddling in that movie. The only reason it works is because they already have all of the good dialogue and they
Yeah,
can just have Hugo Weaving, like a cast of amazing, like Hugo Weaving,
yeah.
Kate Blanchett, Ian McKellen can just come over the top and say shit as they show the beautiful New Zealand landscape. And it
Well,
just tricks the audience into thinking that, the story is still moving. Like there's multiple scenes like that in the second and third movie where it's Kate Blanchett who hasn't been in the movie now for like 6 hours, just being like, "The ring bearer will lose his hope very soon."
yeah, but at least it's not like clearly just the producers inserting nonsensical voiceovers.
Could have been Javi.
Oh.
So yeah, that's Denis Villeneuve's sorry, I'm insane now. Just have had like too much caffeine and I should note that Villeneuve lists his main influences on his filmmaking. One of them is Paul Thomas Anderson,
Excellent.
along with Kubrick, Hitchcock, the Coens, and Spielberg,
Amazing.
which makes a lot of sense.
What an inspiring list, honestly. Yeah, that
Mhm.
that that should about do her.
Oh,
That
we didn't
about
talk about
does her.
Next Floor, though.
Oh yeah, we didn't. The 2 minute short or 3 minute
It's
short.
actually like 10 minutes.
Why is it listed as that on IMDb?
Don't look at. Why are you looking at IMDb?
I'm not. I'm
Relax.
just going off my memory of it.
All lies on IMDb. The only reason I wanted to bring it up is because it's just a great short film.
Yeah. I don't know how many people enjoy short films, but you should enjoy them, especially for like it being like a proof of concept for any aspiring filmmaker, right? If you can tell a compelling story and can convey some type of abstract emotion or commentary through, something that's only like 10 minutes, then
Yeah,
that that just proves to pretty much everyone that you can be entrusted with something larger. And yeah, the short film definitely proves that. I mean, he made movies before this as well, but
yeah, it's literally just a bunch of like well-dressed rich people gorging themselves to death on a bunch of meat.
the editing is reminiscent of oh god, I can never remember the character's name. It's Faramir's dad,
Yeah, I
and
know
he's just
exactly who
like
you mean.
he's like plucking like
With
grapes.
the cherries,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
cherry tomatoes,
cherries.
and the chicken.
Yeah, and the editing is very reminiscent of that. Like it's so bothersome, the lip smacking and the crushing of
John Noble was that
textures.
guy's name.
Yeah, I just can't remember his name in the story is what I mean. But
Denethor.
Denethor, yeah, there you go. Yeah, watch Next Floor if you can find it. I don't know where it's streaming, but yeah,
I think it's permanently in the Criterion collection.
perfect. Can't wait to see what else this man cranks out in the coming years because he doesn't seem like he's. I
Slowing
mean, I
down or stopping at all.
yeah,
No.
I really hope he doesn't. Fingers crossed.
My main thing, my only fear, like as a closing note, is that Dune 2, like this is a weird fear to have, that Dune 2 is like a masterpiece and like perfectly adapts the story and it complements part 1, and that then Villeneuve is like, "Oh, well if I did Dune 1 well, now I could just make all the Dune sequel books,
Right.
which are in like all increasingly pieces of trash and
Yeah.
very hard to film."
Yeah. That would be a waste of his talents.
Because I don't really need him to keep working in science fiction. I want to see him do more like reality thriller based stuff, or at
Yes.
least well, another movie like that in between doing these
I
big
want to.
budget blockbusters.
I definitely want to see some heists, some heisty movies from him.
I don't know if he likes heists, but
Well, he would do something else aside from just the heist,
yeah, yeah.
but
Sexy
that just
Beast Part 2.
but that just brings up just make a movie that you would enjoy. So that's what we got to do.
There are cats
All
trying to
right,
break through the door.
time to go. Adios, everyone.